Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Salam alaikum, beautiful souls. What I want to talk to you about tonight is this verse in the Quran that says, وَيَعْلَمُونَ ظَاهِرًا مِنَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. And they know only the surface of the life of dunya. وَهُمْ عَنِ الْآخِرَةِ هُمْ غَافِلُونَ. And they are not aware, they're negligent of the akhirah. This is a Quranic verse. وَيَعْلَمُونَ ظَاهِرًا مِنَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَهُمْ عَنِ الْآخِرَةِ هُمْ غَافِلُونَ. I'm going to be talking about this verse tonight, but before I start that discussion, we need to have some kind of introduction. So have that verse in a beautiful box in your mind. Just put that verse in a piece of cloth or fabric, wrap it beautifully, and put it maybe on a shelf in your mind. We're going to come back to that verse in a few minutes. But in order to understand what does this verse really mean, and as I said, this discussion is inspired by Allama Tabatabai. These are some of his reflections on the verse and some of my own thoughts I've added to it. So what does it mean that they only know a surface level, the appearance of the hayat, the life of this dunya, and they are not aware of akhirah? What does it mean? Let's talk about something introductory. Okay, you must have all heard this example that, it must have happened to you. If it hasn't happened to you, it will very soon, I think, in your life. Has it happened that, for example, you want to, let's say, buy a car? Okay, you're looking to buy a car, and let's say you've chosen, you want to go with a, I don't know what car you're, like a Toyota or a Honda or a Ford or whatever you're into, right? After that, you start seeing it everywhere, right? You're driving in the street and like, oh, there's a Honda there, oh, there's a Honda there, oh, there's another Honda. Or for example, if you want to buy a Toyota, the same thing happens, but now with a Toyota, like, oh, a Toyota, oh, a Toyota, oh, a Toyota. And then you're like, Toyotas are everywhere. Now, what is happening there? Is it that as soon as we decide to buy a car, suddenly angels come and put them all over the roads? No. What happens is that when we're thinking of something, when there's something that is, we're excited about, it's important to us, we care about it, it becomes salient to us. And please pay attention to this word salient. We're going to keep using it tonight, and it's going to be the key word and concept in understanding that Quranic verse that I started the live session with. Salient. The things we care about become salient. What is salient? What does salient mean? Salient means that they become so obvious to us, as if they shout at us and they're like, pay attention to me, look at me, right? That's what salient basically means, right? And this is a very important concept. See, in the world, well, not even in the world, even in this very room, there are so many things you can look at, right? There are so many things. And if you want to see all of them at once, it's just going to be too much information for your brain to process. You're going to give an error, right? Even in one single room. So what does your attention, what does your mind do? It only chooses the things which are more relevant for the purpose you have at that moment, and it only brings those things into your attention, right? Even right now, at this very point, what are you looking at? What are you seeing? Probably you're only seeing your phone, and I kind of think that you're not even seeing your phone. You're seeing through your phone, and you're watching me, right? Like you're not even probably seeing the buttons around your phone, the volume buttons, or if it has a button down there. You're not even seeing that, right? Because why would you? That would be too much information and it would just distract you, right? So what your mind does, it looks at what is it that you care about, what's the function you want to perform, and it only brings that part of the world to your attention that is needed for that, right? It makes it salient. It makes that part of the world salient to you, right? So right now, probably here in your room, a little bit to the left of the phone, a little bit to the right of the phone. There are so many objects, but you're not seeing any of that. Why? Because your mind is so smart. It knows that, for example, seeing the plug right now, or I don't know, seeing your sisters or brothers' socks, which they've thrown there by the room, seeing that right now will not help you watch this video any better. So it takes that out. It doesn't make it salient. See? So your mind is there helping you. It engages in this process of making certain things salient to you and certain things not salient, right? Otherwise, you just couldn't take it. There would be so many information, right? And as soon as what you're doing changes, immediately the things which are salient change. What do I mean? Okay, right now, you want to watch a video. Hopefully, you want to feel a little bit spiritual. So that function means that the phone, and not even the phone itself, the frame. No, just the screen becomes salient, correct? Now, let's say the phone gives you a notification, like somewhere on top there, that battery low. Battery is low. Now, you need to perform another task. You have to run for the charger, right? So immediately, you're going to be looking for the charger. And now you have another task. Your task now is no longer to learn spirituality, is to save the phone from dying mid through the lecture, right? So as soon as you turn away from the phone to look for the charger, you're only going to be seeing things which have to do with you finding the charger, finding the plug and putting it in, right? So you're going to be looking for cables. Oh, where did I put the charger? Oh, the cable is there, right? The things which have to do with you finding the charger become salient. The cables become salient. The plugs in the room become salient, right? Which would be very different, say, to okay, let's talk about another case. Let's say, for example, if guests are coming to your room, like a guest is coming to your room, or you're meeting someone, meeting your partner or a new friend, they're coming to your room, you're so excited and you want to present a very good and unrealistic image of you, which is like, oh, the room is always clean. In that function, you answer me. Which kind of things become salient to you when you have guests? Now you tell me. Oh, you're telling me that. How can you tell me? Because I can't hear. Well, how do you know? Maybe I can hear you all the way in your room. No, don't get scared. But I mean, it's good practice. At least you can say it. So if a guest comes in, what kind of things become salient to us in the room? The things which shouldn't be there, right? The things which are untidy, messy things. It's so interesting. And this is this amazing ability your mind has to only show you that part of the reality which is relevant for the task you want to be performing at that moment. If you want to clean your room, it only focuses on the messy things, untidy things, right? So it's no longer going to show you my face. No, if right now guests are coming in, your attention will be less and less on me and more on the other things in the room which need to be cleaned, like the sock down there. Or for example, oh, maybe I need to do the duvet, fix the duvet, right? Or, oh my God, there are so many cups of tea which I haven't taken for 3 weeks. They're all covered there by, next to the bed. So it will go on those objects. As soon as you wanted the charger, it would be none of those. It would look for cables. This is what we mean by salient, right? Your attention makes part of the world that you need at that moment to perform a task more salient to you. But it's not always based on the task you want to perform. Sometimes what becomes salient to you is just the things you care about, right? The things you care about also become more salient for you in the world, right? So let's give an example. A very simple example was, we said, if you want to buy a car, if you want to buy a Toyota, because you're excited about it, right? Oh, Toyota, for example, I don't know. I want to buy a Toyota Yaris, Corolla, whatever you're excited for. You start seeing it everywhere, right? Now, your friend there who wants to buy a, let's say, what would your friend want to buy? Let's say they want to buy, for example, suddenly all the names of cars are leaving my mind. Let's say your friend wants to buy a Tesla, right? You've got a friend who, mashallah, they've done really well, so they can't buy a Tesla. Your friend wants to buy a Tesla. They're looking everywhere. They see the Teslas around. You're seeing the Toyotas. What's happening? Are there two versions of the world? No, the world is the same. He's looking for Tesla. Tesla becomes salient. You're looking for Honda, Toyota, whatever. That becomes salient to you. Okay. Why is this so important, Sheikh Jawad? And why are we talking about it? Well, first of all, it's interesting, right? Isn't it interesting? I think it's a very interesting idea to know that at every moment you're not seeing all of the world. You're just seeing parts of it, right? Your attention limits all the realities in the world to the part that is relevant for you. And if it didn't do that, you couldn't perform. You'll just sit down because there's just so much information coming, right? There is too much information in the world to process. Even when you notice that, I don't know if you've practiced painting or not. Let's say, for example, you want to put a mug in front of you and paint it. Because you're focusing so much on it, then you realize, oh my God, there's so much information there. Like where the edges finish, where the shadows become stronger, the shadows are weaker, and then, oh my God, look at that curve there, Even in one mug, there's so much information that you could be spending drawing it for hours and hours. And that's just one mug in the room. Imagine, I don't know if you've had the experience of trying to draw the portrait of someone. It's such an interesting experience. When you draw someone's portrait, you realize so many things about their face that you never knew. Like, oh wow, that's how the angle at the end of their eye, that's how it, and oh, this is how, for example, the top of their eyes joins their nose. And it's like, oh wow, there's so much information there, and you're not seeing all of that all the time. Because if you want to see all of that, you can't even talk to them, you can't pay attention to their words because you're like, oh, so much information coming in. Anyways, this is the concept of salient. Now, the tricky point about this is that, as we said, the things inside us, the things we care about, the things that we like, the things that we desire, become salient in the world for us whole. Where is the problem? When does this get challenging? Because this is a great function to make our life easier. The challenge becomes this. When, as a result of having a desire or something you care about, or maybe even external influences, something becomes salient for you, which distracts you from the things you want to be doing in life. What do I mean by that? Let's say you're a person whose goal, it's not everyone is forcing you. No, you yourself, you're passionate, let's say, about pursuing this goal, like, getting a degree, or for example, I don't know, writing a book you've been working on, or reading a book that you've always wanted to read, right? This is a goal you have. It's so meaningful to you. You want to do it. Or let's put another goal. For example, another goal you have is that I want to spend some alone time and sit down, talk to God, maybe read, for example, maybe meditate a little bit. I want to spend some me time and connect to God. This is something I want to do, and it's very, very important for me. Now, if there are other things in me which make certain things salient to me, which clash with this goal, then I'm going to have a problem. Like what? Let's say as a result of maybe social media, let's say I want to stay home and study. But then everyone on social media is posting about going out, having fun, this, that activity, right? And not that there's anything wrong with that. No, that's amazing. But you've even done that a little bit, and you're happy with the amount of fun you had. And now you actually want to study or have some me time. But because everyone keeps posting about it, it becomes salient to you, right? It becomes salient. And the problem is that when something becomes salient, we can't see anything else, right? When something becomes salient, like going out, having fun, or watching a movie, or doing this, whatever. When something becomes salient, it becomes the only thing we see. We can't see other things. Even if we have a goal to spend some me time, when another activity is more salient than that, we're going to have a lot of trouble choosing something which is less salient, right? It's so much easier to do something which is salient, right? Let's say you go on YouTube, not now, before you've decided that you want to, when you go on YouTube, engage in videos which are more educational. Maybe watch, for example, TEDx talks or some TED education, maybe some historical, maybe some documentaries. This is something that you've chosen many times. You've decided this. You know what? I've watched so many entertainment TikTok videos, or for example, I've seen so many reels on Instagram, and I love them. There's nothing wrong with that. But I've decided to watch more educational videos as well. But once you go to YouTube, because of the way it's designed, certain videos are more salient to you. You go there, your attention goes to the TikTok ones, or to the reels, or to the fun ones, right? It just becomes salient, and you can't see anything else. It's not that at that moment you're even aware that this is happening. No, you go there and your mind naturally makes that salient to you. In the same way, do you remember when you were, for example, driving, thinking of buying a Toyota, you only saw Toyotas everywhere? I was like, oh, a Toyota, oh, a Toyota. Why is there so much Toyota? Because you were thinking about it, it became salient. In the same way, other factors like the culture, advertisement, the way social media is formed, they could make certain things salient to us. And when something becomes salient, it means that our attention will only show us that part of the world. And that's why every time we go, for example, on our phone or YouTube, we end up watching those kind of entertainment videos, even though we have many times decided that we want to spend more time on educational videos. This is one example. I don't know if it applies to you or not, but you can find in your own life what are the examples of this when the things which are salient clash with the goal you have for your life, right? Let me have a sip of this because it suddenly became salient to me. You know, even our physical needs make things salient for us, right? I became thirsty. I wasn't even thinking of the mug. Suddenly, as soon as I became thirsty, my attention saw the mug, right? It became salient. Our needs as well make things in the world salient for us. So I was just looking at the screen. Suddenly, I saw the mug. And it's very interesting. Something that you have to know is that you don't always choose where your attention goes. Your attention takes you. And I mean, you do have a kind of role, but they call it, it's like you participate in your attention. You're not fully aware of your attention, right? And it's based on the things inside you, your past, so many things. Your attention takes you somewhere. And this is so important. Where does it take you? To the part of the room which is more salient. Let's talk about another example. Imagine in a wedding, or let's say it's a gathering in a restaurant. You're sitting at a table and you're watching people coming in, right? Either to the wedding or restaurant. And it would be such a fun game to play if you want. Or maybe you've even know the answer to this. Everyone will look at the same scene, guest coming in, but they'll see different things based on what's salient to them, right? Maybe someone who's thinking of buying a new purse, the only thing that they see, the only thing salient to them, ooh, look at the purse Sarah is coming in with. What's a nice purse? Oh, Mariam has an awful purse. She should feel embarrassed. Look at her purse, right? So you end up purse shaming Mariam, which is not a nice thing to do, by the way. But I'm saying, if you're thinking of buying a purse, by the way, I'm so sorry. I don't even know do people take purses to weddings or do you leave it out there? I don't know. And many of you may be judging me this guy has no idea how weddings work. You don't take a purse to a wedding. I don't know. Let's say if you do, right? It's like a purse taking kind of wedding. So based on what you're thinking about, if you want to buy a purse, purses become salient to you. Or if you're wondering what to wear in the next wedding, let's say another wedding is coming in a few days and you don't want to wear the same dress, What becomes salient to you? You're no longer looking at the purses. And it's not like you make a decision. Please pay attention to this part. You don't decide what you're seeing. No. Your attention takes you there. It's not like when people come in, you're like, okay, because I want to decide what to wear, let me look at the dresses. No. Only the dresses are salient to you. Your mind does that. Or only the purses, or only the shoes, or only the hairs. For example, like, ooh, look at Fulani's hair, or whatever. So what I'm trying to get at is that we can look at the same thing, but based on what we're thinking about, what we desire, what's inside us, what we care about, we all see different things. Different things become salient to us, and many times it's not our decision. We may participate in it, but it's bigger than us. Like, it starts before we're even conscious, right? And it's like we suddenly find ourselves looking at that. This is the part I'm trying to get at, okay? And I said there's nothing wrong with this. This is a way to help us. The only time this becomes an issue is when we want to go one way, but the other way becomes salient for us. Let's say I want to, for example, go on a healthy diet, but unhealthy foods become salient for me. Then I have a problem. Because as we just said, whatever becomes salient for me, I can only see that and I won't be able to see anything else. It requires so much effort to look away from things which are salient, right? It's like when you're attracted to something, excited, and you're watching it and you're just there. It's so salient. It's so difficult to move away. It's so difficult. So the problem with salient things is that when you want to go one way, but the opposite way is salient, then you're going to have an issue, right? Now, why is this so important? I will tell you after I'll have a sip. As I said, we may have cultivated things inside us, let's say, for example, as a result of our maybe bad decisions we've made before, or certain habits, or certain patterns of thoughts, right? Now, it could very much be the case that we only certain things become salient for us which are not in line with our journey of growth or with the quality of our life. Let's say I want to improve myself spiritually, but spiritual things never become salient for me. Only the things which are, for example, entertainment becomes salient for me. I want to lose weight. I want to go to the gym, but going to the gym is not salient for me. What is salient? Going to the restaurant. And it's not like I'm making a decision. It's that just the thought doesn't occur to my mind, right? Because eating is salient for me, right? Chocolates are salient to me. Like, and as I told you, it's like you go in the room, there's salad there on the table, but you don't even see the salad. It's like the chocolate drags you to it, right? That's what I'm saying, that you don't own your attention. No, like the chocolate takes you there. And you're like, oh, chocolate, right? And you're not even aware that you're not seeing the other things on the table. So this is when it becomes a problem, when it's not in line with our goals. And now you can see why so many of us, we want to spend more time on our spirituality, but we're like, Sheikh, I'm so busy the whole time. I never have time for like sitting down, reading Nahj al-Balagha or talking to God. I get so busy, right? Now, most of the times, the issue is not that we don't have time. We can make time, no. And I'm not saying the issue is that we're bad people, no. The issue is that we're living in a culture where it doesn't make spending time on your growth salient. What does it make salient on all these Instagram posts, Facebook, at work, in culture, work. So if you're either going to be a work-oriented person, have to work, get a promotion, study. That's the only thing which becomes salient. So it's not like you don't have 5 minutes in the day. No, it's just that the thought, the idea of spending 5 minutes at home and working on your spirituality is just not salient to you. It doesn't occur to you. Why? Because the culture is making other things salient, like working, working, working. Or maybe for some other people, fun, having, going out, watching movies, doing this, doing that, right? So this is usually the problem we have. It's not that we don't have time, because spirituality doesn't take time. And like a very easy way, for example, to be spiritual, we'll talk about it, is maybe even if you spend 3 minutes, I'm not excluding myself from this because I'm in the same situation. All it takes, for example, is 2-3 minutes before we sleep to engage maybe in some reflection on our day, or maybe a kind of mindful practice, or talking to God. 2-3 minutes, believe me, that's all it takes initially. It's going to make a huge difference. Make that 3 minutes, 5 minutes, it's going to change your life after 2 months, right? But why don't we do that? Is it that we don't even have 3 to 5 minutes? No, believe me, we have. Believe me, we spend more than that on our phone at night. It's just that when you go to the bed, the thoughts of let me, take 5 minutes to talk, to think, to God, to think, is not salient, right? It doesn't take your attention there. But as soon as you put your head on the pillow, what is salient to you? Check it tonight. The thing which is salient is suddenly takes your attention that, oh, my phone, right? Your phone is so salient. It's like it drags you there. And it's not even that you make a decision. No, you don't make a decision. That's all you see. You don't even know there's another option, right? Or maybe worrying. Worries become salient, and you end up worrying or thinking about stressful things because they're so salient. That's one of the reasons why anxiety is so difficult to deal with, because when we're anxious, these kind of thoughts become so salient. And anxiety is just the salience of thoughts and feelings, right? They become so salient that they keep taking our attention to them, right? And actually one of the ways to, I'm not saying it's easy, I'm not undermining those who are dealing with anxiety, but one of the practices basically is that to try and practice to go against what is salient, right? So for example, in some forms of exposure therapy, what you're doing is that you accept that these thoughts, scary thoughts, anxious thoughts are so salient. They're there. They're taking your attention to them, and you accept that, but you still try to push through, not engage with them. Right? So you see that this idea of things that become salient, when it goes wrong, it can have impacts on us, and then basically we need to learn this practice of fighting against what's salient. All of this I mentioned as an introduction. Now we're going to go back to the verse of the Quran which I started with. What was it? وَيَعْلَمُونَ ظَاهِرًا مِنَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَهُمْ عَنِ الْآخِرَةِ هُمْ غَافِلُونَ. This is a very beautiful verse which actually, it's so interesting. It wasn't salient to me. So when I was reading the Quran, it didn't come to my attention as a significant verse that, sit down and think about it. It's actually Allama Tabatabai who made it salient for me, right? Because I've read it many times. Oh, interesting verse, beautiful. And then I would go into the next verse. But Allama Tabatabai, what it is that he take this verse out, and with the beautiful points he mentions, he brought it like this, like, Jawad, pay attention, And then I was like, oh my God, there's so much points there, so many beautiful. So again, you see how when even in reading the Quran, this concept of salient is so interesting. Many of us can read the same page, but a different verse becomes salient to you. It drags you to itself. Like if you're, for example, thinking about women and the feministic approach to Quran, maybe, that verse has something to become salient. You don't see anything else. If you're thinking about God's love, another verse becomes, right? Anyway, so what about this verse? وَيَعْلَمُونَ ظَاهِرًا مِنَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. They only know a surface level, the appearance, the shallow levels of the life of this world. Wow. Now, what does this mean? It means that, it's very interesting. As a result of many of us, by the way, Quran is speaking about most people, because we're still obviously in the beginning of our spiritual journey, God is saying what happens is that because of the things that become salient to you due to culture, your own desires are usually not very deep things. It's either about money, it's either about your worries or fears or certain level of desires. They become salient for you and they stop you from seeing so many things in the world. Now, Quran is saying the kind of things which you end up not seeing are actually the deeper realities of the world. So it's not like when I want to buy a Toyota, I suddenly see Toyotas everywhere and I'm not seeing Honda. Because in that case, Toyota and Honda are in the same level of significance. Okay, I'm paying it because I want to buy Toyota. I'm just seeing Toyota. Oh, Toyota here, Toyota there, Toyota everywhere. Or for example, when you want to, I don't know, buy a house, suddenly when you're driving, you don't even see cars. You're just checking houses. Ooh, a house. Should we buy this one? Oh, no, we want to buy that one, right? If you want to buy something, it becomes salient and you miss out on so many other things. But in that case, you're missing out on things which are at the same level of importance, the same level of significance. Let's say you're looking at houses, you're missing on cars. You're looking at, for example, people's purses in the wedding, you don't see their dresses. You're not missing that much importance. God says, well, that's at one moment what's salient to you. Look at your whole life. Look at 20 years of your life, 30 years of your life, 40, 50. Quran says in these 50 years, all the things which became salient to you, these were things which are only at the surface level of the reality of this life, of this world. There was so much more, so much depth for you to see that you missed out on. So much beauty, so much love, so much connection. There was so much more to see in this world that you missed out on. Now, just to give an example of what does that mean, let's say a person who's never experienced love, whether it's by parental love, grandma's love, friendship love, or romantic love. And there's been so much focus. For example, they didn't receive love as from their parents, and then their love didn't become salient for them. So they started working. They never spent time to cultivate deep friendships or a relationship, meaningful relationship, because work was salient to them, right? And the problem with this person is that because they've never seen love, they don't even know what they're missing out on, right? Love never became salient for them. Their parents never showed love, or maybe, for example, unfortunately, their parents weren't involved, they weren't there, and the person didn't know what love is. It never became salient. And then when the person grew, the culture said work, 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 so work became salient, and love was never there, so the person never saw love. And I know people like that. They don't even think that love is important. Now, if you're a person who's had that meaningful relationship with your children, or for example, partner or sister or a friend, you know how much they're missing out on, how important that is, right? So in one way, you compared to a person who's never experienced love, you can say that, you know what, in this life, I've seen more depth of it. I've seen love, right? It's as if suddenly your experience of life becomes deeper. Right? Isn't that the case? Or for example, when sometimes people become a parent, they always, my friends who are parents, they always love to tell me, no, Sheikh Jawad, there's some things you don't know. It's as if suddenly they experience that their vision of life, their perception of life has become deeper, right? Other things become salient to them. And they always tell me, Sheikh Jawad, now that you don't have children, you don't know what it's like. Because those kind of feelings, those kind of things are not salient to you. Like you don't know what it means to care so much about someone, or to someone else's happiness be more important. I'm like, fair enough. Okay, it's not salient to me. And so we have in some areas of life, and by the way, I'm not saying that having children is the only way to have meaningful relationships. So if you can't have children, that's okay. This is what I'm saying, that all Quran is saying, all of these, even having children, even all of these, ظاهرا من الحياة الدنيا. There's so much more depth. And unfortunately, in order to reach the depth, we need to start working for it. We need to want it. We need to see it. But we're not. Why? Because so many other things are salient for us. Right? So when we start our day, the idea that, I want to go to the deeper layers of experience. I want to experience that kind of depth. I want to see the realities of this world. I want to see that love that God is talking about. I don't want to have this shallow understanding. None of these thoughts come to our mind. Why? It's not salient. Culture doesn't care about it. Our friends at work don't care about it. And still the passion is not in our heart so that internally it becomes salient for us. No. And that's why we could live for 50, 60 years and we're like, oh, this life sucked. Right? And we get trapped in our version of the world. And this version of our world could be so sad, could be full of pain, right? Because if we get trapped in a pattern of only seeing pain, then pain always becomes thingy for us, salient. So, one of the reasons why religion keeps insisting on gratitude is not that God is desperate for us to say thank. No. Gratitude was a technology of the mind to make the good things in life salient for you, so that when you're living your life, it's not just that the bad things shout at you. Because everyone who's been low knows that. When you're low, nothing good you can remember of. Nothing good is salient. Only the pain is salient. Ooh, this is missing. And then it's as if out of all the things in life, only the thing which is missing is like dragging you to itself. It becomes so salient. So gratitude was basically a practice that unfortunately many of us, we haven't learned it because they didn't teach us, of when pain becomes so salient, try and free yourself from the pain, not to ignore it, but to keep it from being the only salient thing so that you can see the good things in your life as well. I hope this makes sense, by the way. In my mind, this is making a lot of sense. But I'm not sure if I managed to communicate this. So anyway, Quran is saying right now you're trapped in a very small part of the world. And in this part of the world, there could be pain, there could be fear, there's no love of God, there's no connection, you're not seeing who you are, right? Even your soul is not salient to you. God is not, that beauty of God is not salient to you. You only get a small part of it. ظاهرا من الحياة الدنيا. So this was one part of it that I wanted to talk to you about, that in this world right now, we are not seeing so much. In the same way that right now you're looking at your phone, believe me, you're not seeing the rest of your room. So it's not a crazy idea to be somewhere and not see so much. Right? Right now, you're not seeing anything in your room. You're just seeing this. So you're here, but you're not seeing it. In the same way, we live in this world. I'm on the earth. I am living here. But believe me, we're not seeing so much because it's not salient to us, unfortunately. And we'll talk about this later on, how to make those things salient to us. And you have had experiences of this. Masalan, maybe after a trip to Hajj, maybe after a month of Ramadan, because something changed inside you, suddenly other things became salient to you. After a spiritual time in your life, things that before wouldn't come to your mind, suddenly it would come, right? Or maybe I've seen a lot of people that after a spiritual experience in their life, they become more loving. And it's not that before they didn't want to show love. No, it's just that now opportunities for loving become salient to them. What do I mean by that? Before their spiritual experience, during the day, the only things they could see was like, okay, I need to do this task, I need to worry about this, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do that, right? Only these things became salient to them. But now, because of a spiritual change inside, other things become salient to them as well. Like, for example, they're washing the dishes or they're driving, suddenly their attention goes somewhere. Oh my God, you know what? For example, my friend Fulani is pregnant. Maybe I can ask her if she needs anything. Maybe I can go visit her and see if she needs anything. They didn't think about that. Their attention took them there. You don't decide that suddenly I want to do something good. No, your attention goes there and like, oh, that's a good idea, let me do it. You were driving. Where did that idea came from? How did suddenly, for example, the idea of let me do something nice for someone, it became salient as a result of some inner change. So even you must have had experiences like this. So anyways, inshallah later on we'll talk more about how to make those things more salient for us that can help us go to the depth of this world. Now, another interesting point from Allama Tabatabai that I want to share with you, which is so fascinating, and maybe another week we can speak about it because that on its own is a perfect point, is, you know, if I tell you, you only know the appearance of something, you don't know its, what do you expect me to say? Probably would say you don't know its depth, right? And Quran says, يَعْلَمُونَ ظَاهِرًا مِنَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. They only know the surface level of the life of this dunya. What do you expect the next sentence to be? Okay, if they only know the surface level of dunya, this life of dunya, then they don't know its depth. But what does Quran say? وَهُمْ عَنِ الْآخِرَةِ هُمْ غَافِلُونَ. And Allah Ta'ala uses this to say, Akhirat is right now here. Akhirat doesn't start when this dunya finishes. No, Allah Ta'ala says, Akhirat is the depth of this dunya. Right? Allah says, Akhirat is existing right now. It's the depth of this reality. But we're just not seeing it. And he mentions many proofs, but one thing which may make this more understandable for you is, you know how, for example, Prophet says, when you backbite a friend, it's as if at that very moment you're eating fire, or, sorry, it's like the dead meat. Sorry, when you're backbiting, it's dead meat. Or, for example, when you eat the money or the wealth of an orphan, it's as if you're eating fire. Allah says, yes, it is. Because Akhirah exists right now. In other words, life right now is going on at different levels. We are just seeing the surface level, but Akhirah is happening right now. Akhirah is not something that happens at the future time. Right? Many of us think dunya goes on, dunya finishes, Akhirah starts. Allah Ta'ala says, no, dunya and Akhirah are happening at the same time. So what happens on the Day of Judgment? It's not that suddenly Akhirah comes to being. No, it's that Akhirah becomes salient. In the same way that now dunya is salient and we can't see Akhirah, although the Prophet says with spiritual practices you can see Akhirah right now. You can make Akhirah salient. But for most of us, dunya is salient, so we can't see Akhirah. As soon as we die, Akhirah starts becoming salient. And that's what, for example, the Quran says, that will remove the veils and now you can see. What does that mean? It means all this time it was there. Now you also understand what does this veil mean that Quran says, right? We're going to remove the veils, and you say, veil is nothing but our attention, right? If your attention always takes you to A, it won't let you see B. So it's as if B is in a veil, right? In the same way that if you want to buy shoes, when you go to the street, you're only going to see people's shoes. So you're not going to see their trousers. You're not going to see their shirts. So in some way, we can say, your eyes have a veil for seeing their shirts, right? All of this was a point that we're going to elaborate on later on, but it's just so beautiful to know that Akhirah is accessible right now. Okay, my presentation is over now. I hope it was beneficial.